Hello everybody, this is Peter Renwick with Follow Your Bliss Life Coaching. Once again here in the woods with a talk in the woods. I am a beautiful spot here by a stream I'm sure you can hear in the background, kind of a falls. And I'm here today just to talk about one thing that we do very often. I know I do it a lot, and I've talked to a lot of people about this, and that's compare. I'd like to talk about what happens to our psyche, to our emotions when we compare. This is a mental activity that most of us do, and it's often with detrimental result. It's a surefire way when we compare ourselves to others to activate the ego in often not the best light. When we compare ourselves to others, very often what happens, and I love this expression, I didn't make it up, but I use it a lot, is that we compare and despair, because that's the final result of what happens when we're looking at somebody else, often looking at the best in them and the worst in ourselves, and putting ourselves down. Well, actually, there's really two ways that we compare ourselves to others. One is that way when we look at the best in somebody else compared to the worst in ourselves. We look at how they are on the outside, the way they look on the outside compared to the way that we feel on the inside. We make a lot of assumptions. But we also will engage our ego by comparing ourselves to others and finding what's best in ourselves, puffing ourselves up and looking down on other people. And of course that has its own negativity as well. So those are the two general ways. There tend to be extremes. We either inflate our own ego by looking down on somebody, or we deflate it by looking at somebody else in a higher light and putting ourselves down. So one of the ways I just mentioned that really I think happens a lot is that we judge our insides against what somebody appears to be. The material things that they have, maybe the way that they carry themselves, or their relationships, or their job. And we look at them and we make a lot of assumptions about the way that we think that they live their life and how happy they are. And we then compare what we see in them against our own life and what we lack. And that sense of lack brings about a real feeling of less than in ourselves. And that, I think, is one of the most common ways that we compare. And certainly when we're doing that, we are despairing, right? Because we see the strength in others, we see the weakness in ourselves, and then we beat ourselves up for not having that, not being that way. And the bottom line is, there's a different way to look at that situation. We can look at our own strength. We can focus on our strength in a situation, or look at our job in the best possible light. So sometimes we have to shift the way that we think, and I'm going to talk obviously more about that today, but also that's a theme in all of these talks in the woods, is how we think. So today I'm saying we compare, but we don't have to compare. We don't have to look at another person and put them on a pedestal or down below. We can actually start to exercise a new way of thinking, right? That we can look consciously. We have to first become conscious of the fact that we're doing it, because so often this comparing that leads to a very negative feeling about ourselves is done unconsciously. The trains of thought it starts, and it just goes 60 miles an hour, 100 miles an hour, 200 miles an hour, bullet train, whatever it is. All of a sudden now we are beating ourselves up and we're feeling less than about ourselves. So we have to be conscious of what's happening. We have to recognize that we're doing this comparison and that it's affecting our ego. So what do we do once we realize we're doing it? Start to look at your own strengths. Start to be objective about the things that you do bring to the table. Start to recognize the material things that you do have in your life. Very often, that might be a gratitude list, or it might be an attitude of gratitude, but those things are powerful. Those things are meaningful because it gives you perspective. When we look at somebody else and we're putting ourselves down and holding them in highlight, we can get a better feel for what really is going on by recognizing the things that we do have in our life, the strengths that we have in our life. Develop that attitude of gratitude, develop a gratitude list, whatever it is. Celebrate the things that make you special, celebrate your strength of character. So when we find ourselves comparing, recognize that we're doing it, become conscious of it, slow that bullet train down, and then take a step back and start to take inventory of the things that we do have in our lives. And be very thoughtful about that and celebrate those things. Hey, it's a new mindset. Very often that's what it is. It's a mindset. Look at what is awesome in your life. Be grateful for those things that are awesome in your life. And then be conscious of how that makes you feel. Because once you recognize the blessings you have in your life and the gratitude that you have for those things, it's very hard, if not impossible, to be grateful and to be feeling less about yourself, to feel less than about yourself. So be conscious of that, right? How we perceive the world, whether we're comparing in a negative light or whether we're enjoying our blessings, developing a gratitude list, is going to directly impact how we experience the world. So that's what I want you to really focus on is, what's your mindset in that moment? When you find yourself comparing, how do you turn it around? How do you find gratitude? And then what does that feel like? And reinforce that. I can tell you right now, I am extremely grateful to be in this beautiful spot. I look forward to speaking with you again and develop that mindset, that gratitude mindset. Take care. Again, check out my website at followyourblисslc.com. Take care.